Hold on, isn't that Marcus's poor ex-wife? I thought she wouldn't dare show up to this wedding party. Whispers erupted, then abruptly silenced in the instant the hotel doors swung open. Atlanta's night blazed with camera flashes as the long line of Cadillac Escalades, Bentleys, and black-suited bodyguards pulled up in a convoy. The men in black suits and dark glasses stepped out in unison, forming a pathway, and at the center of it all was Monique. The woman once evicted from her own home, now draped in a radiant red silk gown that drew every eye, her gaze cold as steel. Beside her, her father, the man dubbed Detroit's boss, strode with an authority that made the air heavy as stone. Marcus stood stunned. Claire trembled. This was no longer a reunion between an ex-husband and wife. It was a declaration of war. The question was, how would Monique destroy him right here on his wedding day? Back to the main story.
Wedding ends tonight.
Atlanta's night glittered like a galaxy spilled across the earth. Glass skyscrapers lit up Peachtree Avenue, where luxury cars glided by like an endless river of light. At the center of that universe was Marcus Hale, an African-American entrepreneur, shining like a star born to dazzle. His tailored suit hugged his tall frame, his Italian shoes gleamed under streetlights, and his smile could sway any jury. In the courtroom, he was a saint of words. At the elite's dinner tables, he was the perfect emblem of black success. Beside Marcus, there was always a familiar shadow, Monique, with the pure beauty of an African-American woman. She appeared at every event, from lavish buckhead parties to solemn services at Ebenezer Baptist Church. Her silk dress floated gracefully, her face soft, her eyes exuding calm. She moved like a carefully chosen accessory to highlight her husband's blinding light. People sipped wine, raised glasses, and smiled. Marcus is so lucky to have such a graceful wife. But if you listen closely, that praise was just another way of saying, she looks beautiful and quiet. That's enough. Marcus often said it half-jokingly, just be beautiful and quiet, Monique. That's all I need from you. At first, she smiled it off, treating it as harmless teasing. But by the 10th time, the 20th, it was no longer a joke. It became an invisible chain, locking her in a gilded cage. In the newspaper photos, Marcus stood center frame, confident as a future politician, while Monique drifted to the edges, like decorative shade. No one noticed her eyes, where a cold vagueness reflected, like dust-covered glass. But Atlanta wasn't just glamour, it was ruthless. In the hair salons of the Southwest neighborhood, in the post-service whispers at church, a rumor spread. Monique couldn't have children. They said it softly but loud enough for her to hear. She's beautiful, sure, but what's the use if she can't give him a family? Each word was a needle prick to her skin, drawing blood no one could see. At night, when Marcus slept off a long day in court, Monique lay still, staring at the ceiling. The clock ticked, cars hummed outside. In her heart, the question echoed, if I'm not his wife, then who am I? Gradually, she started believing the vicious rumors. Her reflection in the mirror grew faint, as if she herself was fading from her own life. Then fate struck in the cruelest way. A gray, rainy afternoon on Peachtree Avenue. She froze before the fogged window of a coffee shop. Inside, Marcus sat across from Claire, the rising star colleague. His black suit was like armor for a victor. Their simple hand-holding was ruthless, like a final verdict. Claire leaned her head on Marcus's shoulder, his lips near her ear, his eyes tender in a way Monique could no longer recall him looking at her. Rain lashed the window, streaking like cracks in the perfect marriage portrait. Standing outside, Monique saw herself no longer as a wife, no longer as a woman. She was just an abandoned shadow. Less than a week later, social media exploded. Photos of Marcus and Claire hand in hand flooded local news feeds. Maybe it's time he found a woman who can actually give him a real family. The comment was shared thousands of times, each one a knife straight to Monique's heart. Marcus's family turned their backs on her, citing honor. Community invitations vanished. The phone went silent. The luxurious midtown home grew empty, like a stage after the curtain fell. On the day the Fulton County Court delivered the divorce decree, She sat like a shadow under fluorescent lights, facing Marcus as he casually flipped through files. When the ruling was read, Marcus kept everything: the house, the luxury cars, the accounts. Monique left court with just a few suitcases and a paper confirming her emptiness. No children, no assets, no rights. To the world, it was failure. But to her, it felt like a funeral with no mourners, where she buried yesterday's self. On the courthouse steps, under the pale post-storm sun, Monique gripped her bag strapped tight. From here, where will my life turn? The question hung in Atlanta's sky. She descended those steps like stepping out of the past, unaware that the new path would lead her back to Detroit, where the blood in her veins had never stopped flowing, where her father's name once made the whole city tremble. Had Atlanta just witnessed the burial of a woman, or the opening rite for the return of a dark queen? All right, my dear audience, pause for a moment, hit subscribe or comment number 1 if you find this story intriguing. The Amtrak train left Atlanta Station in the night, carrying a woman with nothing left but a few battered suitcases. Monique sat quietly by the window, eyes watching the city lights recede like falling stars, each glow fading into darkness. In the train's quiet car, the steel wheels grinding on tracks sounded like a funeral heartbeat. She thought of the midtown home with its gleaming wooden stairs, the champagne-fueled parties, the courtroom where Marcus stood tall like a saint while she was mere shadow. It all slipped away like an empty dream. Now, Monique was no longer Atlanta's elegant wife, but a failure stripped to the bone. The train slowed as it entered Detroit. A cold wind rushed in, carrying scents of coal oil, bus exhaust, and damp wood from a working-class city that once beat as America's industrial heart. Gray light draped the old brick row houses, where her childhood memories still lingered. The taxi rolled through silent streets. Monique clutched the seat, heart pounding as it turned onto the road to her father's old suburban mansion. Tall iron gates loomed, coated in matte black paint, creaking open with a heavy groan. Inside, the house stood like a fortress, with thick wooden doors and narrow windows reflecting golden light. The front door swung open. The man stepped out. He had aged, but his presence still thickened the air. Salt and pepper hair neatly trimmed, perfect black suit, eyes like daggers piercing the dark. This was the man Detroit once whispered about, in tones no one dared raise the boss. The one who moved streets like chess pieces, who made police and officials alike tread carefully. And he was her father. Monique stood frozen, suitcase slipping from her hand, as if the entire past rushed back, dinners full of liquor and defiant laughter. Days she tried to flee the Mafia shadow for a proper life in Marcus's arms. Now, fate had looped back, returning her to the place she once wanted to forget. Her father needed no questions. He saw it all in his daughter's eyes. The betrayal, the humiliation, the nameless loss. He simply turned, raised a hand in signal, and as if waiting, 2 men in black suits appeared, silently carrying her bags inside. Monique followed, like a lost soul finding her way home in her own house. In the vast living room, murals of Detroit's golden past adorned the walls, chandelier lights spilling over a long, polished oak table. The space held its old aura of authority, heavy, mysterious, bound by unspoken rules. Monique sat, trembling fingers tracing the rim of a wine glass placed before her. That night, Detroit lay silent outside, but in her heart, long dormant memories awoke. She recalled seeing her father in his sharp suits, men bowing in restaurants, late-night calls, black cars pulling up, then vanishing into shadow. She had chosen to run, chosen a safe life with Marcus. But that safety had proven illusion. The next day, Monique walked the long hallway of the house, where closed doors hid rooms full of secrets. At the end, one door opened to stairs, leading to the basement, the meeting room of the men who once ran the city from the shadows. There, her father sat, a map of Detroit pinned behind him, dotted with red marks. No words needed. One look from him said it all. Daughter, now it's your turn. Monique drew a deep breath. She had been devoured by Atlanta for believing in false glamour. But Detroit wasn't Atlanta. This was a city of blood, steel, and unforgiving rules. And in her blood, It turned out that strength had never faded. In the days that followed, she learned to stand at the meeting table, absorbing numbers, deals, silent nods. She was no longer a shadow. Step by step, she learned to meet men's eyes without flinching, to wield silence as a weapon, to let power flow through her voice without raising it. Detroit, city of rusting steel and Motown rhythms, became her forge. On long nights, Monique sat by the window, watching distant red lights flicker. She knew to rise. She couldn't rely on pity or empty advice. She had to forge herself into flame. And then, opportunity came faster than she expected. A man who had publicly mocked her in Atlanta, a businessman exploiting the black community for profit, showed up in Detroit, thinking it could be bought as easily as the South. In a dim meeting, Monique sat silent, eyes tracking his every gesture. When he laughed, dredging up the infertile rumor as an insult, she merely lifted her glass, swirled it gently, then set it down on the table. The next morning, that man vanished from Detroit. No one dared mention her name with contempt again. It was Monique's first order, and the first time she felt invisible no more. In Detroit's darkness, a queen was being tempered. Monique had buried Atlanta's weak woman. But could she control this new path the blood-stained Mafia road, or would it devour her soul? Avenue's tiny bars. For Monique, returning to Detroit was like stepping into an old heartbeat, a forgotten melody, but the blood in her veins had never stopped humming its tune. In the early days, she watched her father quietly. The man didn't need to shout or slam fists. He just sat there, back straight, eyes cold, and the men around him, tough, scarred, listened like hearing a sacred hymn. He spoke little, but each word cut like a sharp blade, slicing doubt away. Monique sat beside him, fingers lightly gripping the wooden table's edge, feeling power course through the room like invisible current. Her father taught her things no law book held. Reading body language, spotting lies in a blink, commanding a room without raising your voice. True power doesn't need gestures. It just exists. He'd say not as advice, but as plain fact. By day, Monique walked Detroit's hard-scrabble streets, where brick houses peeled like unhealed wounds. She saw young mothers clutching children, eyes hollow from sleepless nights, queuing for food stamps, unemployed youths loitering at corners, smoking, gazes lost. This was her community's Detroit, a forsaken city, yet still pulsing in the shadows. By night, she returned to her father's meeting table, where Detroit's map sprawled like a battlefield. Red pins dotted the city, bars, docks, auto shops, family strongholds. She sat, listened, and began contributing. At first, cautious phrases. But soon, her words lost hesitation. She pointed out ways to extend influence into struggling black neighborhoods, not to exploit, but to protect. The idea was fresh, drawing frowns, but her father stayed silent, then nodded slightly. It was the first time Monique truly felt heard. Time passed, and she became her father's face at meetings. People started calling her Detroit's princess, but not with Atlanta's disdain. Here, the title carried caution. She entered a room, and mockers fell silent. Every glance held respect laced with fear. One night, as cold wind whipped dark alleys, Monique stood before an abandoned factory, once her father's base. Inside, chairs circled, dozens of women waiting. Not Mafia kin, but single mothers, the jobless, the discarded. She spoke to them not as a benefactor, but as one who had stood at the abyss's edge. Second chances, the names sparked like intuition. Just papers, old tables, but their eyes lit like kindled fire. It wasn't her father's project, not on the power map. This was Monique's alone. A parallel path, stained not with blood but hope. Yet Detroit grants no one easy peace. As Monique built second chances, another force circled. A young, ruthless gang, bold and reckless, hungered for the streets her father once ruled. One night, leaving an old hall after women's training, she spotted two strange cars parked across the street. Headlights flared, pinning her. A signal, a warning. She didn't flinch. Her steps neither hurried nor slowed. Her father's guards emerged from shadows, forming a protective ring. The strange cars revved and melted into night. Detroit had just reminded her, to survive here, you needed not just heart, but claws. In the days after, Monique dove deeper into family business. She learned negotiation, deal-making, making foes think they won when they'd lost. Once, in a meeting with white investors eyeing black turf, she sat silent as they blustered. When they sneered, dredging old rumors about her, Monique tilted her head, smiled, and slid a dossier their way. Inside, proof of their own money laundering schemes. Their smirks vanished instantly. From that moment, Monique knew, strength lay not in shouts, but in silencing others. Detroit began whispering her name. Some called her the Mafia princess, others the community boss. But whatever the title, all knew. Monique had stepped from Marcus's shadow and even her father's. She was crafting a new image, a woman who could sit at both tables, power and community. One night, as Motown echoed from an old kitchen radio, Monique stood by the window, watching streetlights flicker over weathered roofs. She knew the road ahead was thorny. She could become the flame lighting her community, or the blaze consuming all. But for the first time in years, she felt truly herself. Not an accessory, not a shadow. She was Monique, daughter of Detroit, daughter of a mafia legend, and perhaps the new queen of a city craving both hope and power. But could she keep second chances separate from the family's darkness, or would the light she ignited be swallowed by the storm lurking in Detroit? Spring came to Detroit not with cherry blossoms, but with Motown beats bursting from old radios flung open to the street, with grill smoke rising from sidewalks, and with new light in the eyes of those once thought forgotten. In an old church on Gratiot Avenue, Monique stood amid a room bathed in pale golden fluorescent glow. Before her sat dozens of women, some young, some graying, all bearing scars of society's rejection. Trembling hands gripped pens, rewriting resumes on thin white paper. Eyes once downcast now lifted, sparking with hope. Second chances had truly taken shape. From small training sessions, it grew into a movement. Classes sprang up in empty libraries, disused school halls, even borrowed auto garages. Keyboard clacks echoed. Tentative laughter replaced sighs. Monique paced the hall, heels clicking steady rhythm, her eyes alight. Word of her spread fast. The woman once dumped by her husband, now helping hundreds find jobs. It echoed through Detroit, then beyond. One morning, a TikTok clip of Monique hugging a young mother after a surprise successful interview went viral. Gospel music underscored it, their eyes blazing joy. In days, millions of views turned Monique from obscurity to rebirth icon. Black Twitter buzzed, "This is the leadership we need." Small articles, then bigger, profiled her. The press dubbed her Detroit's daughter, the woman turning pain into community power. But the brighter the light, the longer the shadow. One evening, returning from a workshop, her black Cadillac convoy rolled empty streets. At a corner, two strange cars blocked the way. Windows slid down, cold eyes glinting in dark. Not a greeting, a threat. The rising underground forced the young gang claiming Detroit sent its message. Guards stepped out, hands on belts. No shots fired, just stares taut as bowstrings. Then the strange cars roared off, leaving scorched rubber stink. But Monique knew, second chances didn't just lift the poor. It starved those preying on poverty. And Detroit never forgave rule breakers easily. Still, she didn't retreat. Instead of shadows, she stepped bolder into light. She accepted community conference invites. On stage, under golden spotlights, she needed no script. Her own story hushed the room, then ignited applause. If anyone ever told you you're worthless, remember you're living proof they're wrong. Even her father, the man who believed power, lived in silence and fear, watched quietly. He saw the daughter, once a party shadow, now walking with leader's grace. She touched hearts, a power no gun could buy. Good news flooded in. A New Orleans foundation offered funding. Second chances gained new classrooms, free daycare, donated office wardrobes. Women once bowed, now strode in suits, heads high for interviews. Keyboard taps mingled with children's laughter, composing Detroit's new song. Mainstream media took notice. The NAACP invited her to their annual conference. That night, stepping on stage to spotlights, the hall fell silent. No one mentioned her abandonment past. They heard a community's heartbeat in Monique's voice. But amid applause, she sensed something lurking. As if the city whispered, "The higher you climb, the harder the fall." After the speech, a man approached. Jordan, an independent journalist with bright eyes and warm baritone. He didn't rush for an interview, didn't lob shallow questions. He just said, "I want to hear your story from you." In the days after, he became a quiet companion, not stealing light but walking beside like a subtle harmony. Monique felt something unfamiliar, a gentleness without show, affection without proof. In a world of power and threats, that peace was a rare sky. Yet peace never lasts in Detroit. One night, in Second Chance's new office, Monique received a black envelope. Inside, a single photo, her descending the NAACP stage, snapped from afar. Scrawled note, "The brighter the light, the deeper the dark." Monique crumpled the paper, silent. She knew the game had changed rules, and the shadow dweller had begun to move. Could Monique keep hope's flame burning, or would darkness greet her with an unseen storm? My audience, are you still with me? Take a breath, maybe sip some water. Comment, "I'm still here," to catch the exciting part ahead. Detroit's summer sweltered, heat rising from cracked asphalt, sun glaring off weathered gray brick walls. The city was a forge, and Monique the steel rod glowing red, awaiting the final shaping hammer. After the threat letter, shadows clung to her like a second skin. Leaving second chances each time, she felt strange eyes tracking. Unfamiliar cars idled at corners, still as stalking predators. Windows graffitied. "Don't forget who you are." The message clear. The upstarts aimed to seize Detroit, and Monique was first target. Her father urged caution, but he knew his daughter wasn't one to hide behind curtains. Monique chose more light, defying every threat. Deep down, though, she knew a storm brewed, and it wouldn't stop at warnings. The storm hit on a rainy night. Second Chance's center had just wrapped training. Children's laughter still echoed halls as Monique stepped out with Jordan. Sky thundered. A black car screeched near, headlights blinding. In an instant, gunfire cracked sharp, bullets embedding brick wall inches behind her. Screams rose. Guards rushed out, guns trained on shadows. The strange car peeled away, leaving rain-slick streets and Monique's heart pounding wild. Jordan pulled her to safety, his hands shaking but eyes steady. It was the first time Monique saw clearly. Light didn't just make her a symbol, it made her a vital target. But instead of backing down, she surged forward. The attack didn't snuff her flame, it fanned it. In the family meeting after, Monique sat ramrod straight, eyes blazing. "If they think darkness can snuff me, they're wrong. I'll make this light something they can't extinguish." No shout needed, her voice rang like iron bells. Her father watched, silent long, then nodded. He knew the time for his daughter to inherit had come. Monique began plotting, not just safeguarding second chances but expanding beyond Detroit. On one side, funding, media, community backing. Behind the scenes, family weaving a protection web. For the first time, light and shadow merged under one woman's hand. Then, the unexpected. Big media entered the fray. Video of Monique standing resolute post-attack, rain-soaked but unshaken, spread like a new icon. Press hailed her the Phoenix of Detroit, reborn from ashes. Calls poured from New York, Chicago, even Los Angeles. Second Chances wasn't small anymore. It became a national movement. The wave swelled, Monique at its eye, but amid light, her heart tread fragile ground. Jordan, ever at her side, became indispensable anchor. He brought no power or firepower, but his gaze convinced her love could exist without exploitation or lies. Yet his past secrets surfaced. Jordan had investigated Marcus, and he was the first to leak the affair to press, her old pain tied to his work. One quiet evening, as Jordan confessed, Monique stayed silent long, her heart mixed gratitude and betrayal. But then she realized, without that truth exposed, she'd still be trapped in Atlanta's golden cage. Sometimes betrayal is the scalpel-slicing illusion, and Jordan, somehow, became part of her rebirth. Meanwhile, Marcus, the man who crushed her life, prepped for his big day. Atlanta press buzzed with his wedding to Claire, the legal elite's golden harvest. His beaming cover photo held Monique's gaze longer than usual, not from lingering love, but recognition. That familiar arrogance, certainty the past stayed buried. Monique smiled faintly. He was wrong. Because she had a plan. Not mere revenge, but final judgment. Her father mobilized the fleet, the guards. Thick dossiers prepared not about children, but proof of bribes, laundering, case-fixing Marcus hid under his star lawyer cloak. All would be exposed. Not in closed court, but where he thought he'd triumphed. The Ritz-Carlton Atlanta wedding hall. Detroit hummed, but the night before departure, the city hushed. Monique stood at the window, watching red gold lights blink. In her chest, flame blazed from faith and hatred alike. She knew this step wouldn't just end her Marcus past. It would redefine her. Dawn broke, and black Cadillac Escalades rolled out of Detroit in line. Monique sat in hers, red silk gown draped over thighs, eyes fixed ahead resolute. Beside her, Jordan silent, hand near hers like unspoken vow. Behind, her father sat somber, eyes on his daughter like beholding a new dynasty rising. Atlanta, prepare. The Phoenix was ready to return. Would the Ritz-Carlton Hall become Marcus's glory stage, or Monique's public courtroom for the final strike? Atlanta gleamed like a polished gem. On Peachtree Avenue, press jostled, cameras flashing non-stop. The Ritz-Carlton shone under crystal chandeliers, the wedding hall decked like a royal ball. Marcus Hale, the city's legal golden boy, was about to enter a new marriage. To the public, this was his ultimate win. A lavish wedding, a true love, a flawless career. Guests thronged, gowns sparkling, champagne flutes foaming, laughter echoed halls. Talk swirled of Marcus, Claire, Atlanta's black legal golden season. No one suspected, just outside the hotel, a storm gathered. Engine roars echoed from afar. Curious heads turned. Then, like a movie scene, glossy black Cadillac Escalades pulled up in convoy before the entrance. Doors flew open. Black-suited, dark-glassed men emerged, lining up precise. The crowd hushed, first murmurs rising. Who are they? The central Rolls-Royce Phantom's door eased open. Monique stepped out. Her red silk gown clung tight, lights turning her into a fiery streak amid white glow. High heels clicked steady on marble floors. Beside her, her father strode with gravity weighing the air like stone. Guards trailed, orderly as a death orchestra. The crowd froze. They remembered. This wasn't just the discarded woman. This was the daughter of the man Detroit whispered in fear. This was Monique, whom all thought vanished. Inside the hall, the wedding began. Marcus emerged, pristine white suit, smug face. Claire beside him, eyes bright with pride. Applause rang. But then, the grand doors burst open, and claps died. Hold on, isn't that Marcus's poor ex-wife? I thought she wouldn't dare show up to this wedding party. Whispers erupted. Then, abruptly silenced in the instant, the hotel doors swung open. Monique entered. Her heels echoed, steady as judgment drums. Guests held breath. Claire froze, hand clenching Marcus's. Marcus's face flickered, but he masked it with a forced smile. Monique needed no smile. Her presence sufficed. She advanced straight to the podium, uninvited, placed a thick leather-bound dossier on the table before Marcus. The thud reverberated, like unlocking a secret door. Marcus steadied himself. He grabbed the mic, voice quivering slightly but feigning calm. Today, I want to thank everyone for joining us. I've found a wife who understands the value of building a real family. The room iced over. To others, mere pleasantries. To Monique, old knives, sharpened anew. She lifted the dossier, opened it, papers cascaded. Each page evidence, emails, invoices, photos, proving Marcus took bribes, hid illicit assets, rigged trials for the wealthy. Every flip a slash at his perfect image. The hall held breath. Reporters' cameras swiveled, flashes popping, evidence projected on big screens undeniable. Claire recoiled, hands slipping from Marcus's. Her eyes flooded horror. Marcus paled. He lunged for the dossier, but one of Monique's guards stepped forward, halting him with a cold glance. The room quaked. Monique didn't yell, didn't tremble. Her voice rose, soft but razor sharp. You thought I was invisible, but today, the light shines on truth. Not me, but you, the hider, the empty one. First clap from the back. Then, wave-like, the hall erupted. Former admirers of Marcus now jeered, outraged. Press thrust mics, reporters shoved. News spread instant. Legal star Marcus Hale exposed at his wedding. Police arrived minutes later. Marcus was cuffed and let out, head bowed, flashes like a fallen tyrant's finale. Claire stood stunned, white gown sweat damp, eyes lightless. Monique turned away, no backward glance. She hadn't come for petty revenge. She came to rewrite truth. And in that instant, Atlanta understood. The once scorned woman had become justice's icon in shadows. Exiting the Ritz-Carlton, Atlanta's night breeze swept through. Luxury fleet waited. Crowds chanted her name. On digital headlines, bold type screamed, Monique Hale, Detroit Queen, Atlanta verdict. Her father walked beside, eyes proud yet pensive. Jordan trailed quiet, a fleeting smile but worried gaze. With light this bright, what darkness waited? Monique grasped the car door handle, tilting head for one last Ritz-Carlton look. Chandeliers still sparkled, but to her, no longer past glamour's glare, just a makeshift stage for her rendered sentence. She entered the car. The Cadillac convoy rolled, night swallowing city lights. But this time, Monique left Atlanta, not in defeat. She departed a victorious queen, carrying a watching community in her wake. But every win carries cost. Could Monique balance second chances light with Mafia blood's dark? Or would the past return, demanding a debt more terrible than any? Atlanta's night receded like a just curtained play. The Cadillac Escalade convoy sped highways, city lights stretching to streaks in rearview mirrors. Inside, Monique sat straight, red gown blanketing the seat, eyes outward but mind replaying the Ritz-Carlton hall, Marcus cuffed and dragged away. That moment, press called her Justice Queen, Detroit Phoenix, America fixated on the once discarded woman. Phone screens flashed. Monique Hale topples Atlanta legal star from abandoned to national icon, but in her heart, silence reigned. Victory held no pure sweetness. It tasted metallic, cold, like fresh spilled blood. Crossing Georgia's border, her father sat somber beside. He said nothing, just glanced at his daughter with pride-tinged caution. Monique understood. To him, she was no longer the child fleeing Mafia shadow. She was a force of her own, rivaling, even surpassing him. And in this world, even blood could turn battlefield. Back in Detroit, public waves crashed like flood. Press mobbed the train station, lenses tracking her steps. Crowds gathered outside second chances, chanting her name. The once invisible woman, now a community's torch. Inside the office, weathered walls papered support posters. Single moms hugged her, once despairing youths gazed in awe. Keyboards clattered lively, children's laughter rang. Second Chances was no small program. It had swelled to national movement, fueled by millions of hearts. Monique entered her new office, sunlight streaming wide windows. Desk held fat funding contracts from giant foundations. Drawer, a pistol her father left. Reminder this world held more than light. She touched both paper and cold metal, then withdrew. On quiet nights, as Jordan wrote nearby, Monique wrestled a question. Am I walking two irreconcilable paths? One to community leadership, respect, hope. The other, tied to blood, shadows, the Mafia legacy she couldn't deny. Answer seemed to form one autumn evening. A black envelope arrived at the office. Inside, not a threat photo, but a list. Names of second chances women with home addresses. Cold message. Keep going, and they'll pay. Monique gripped the paper, palms sweat slick. This wasn't personal play anymore. Now, innocent lives hinged on her choices. She summoned her father. He scanned it, set it down, eyes narrowing. You want community leadership? Fine. But remember, light exists only as long as darkness allows. Monique met his gaze, voice steady. No, light exists when someone dares keep it burning, and I'll be that someone. For a beat, the room stilled, clock ticking sole sound. Her father chuckled softly, proud yet bitter. He saw. The light-shadow war wasn't out there anymore. It raged in his daughter's heart. Next day, Monique held a press conference. Before dozens of lenses, she skipped threats. Instead, announced Second Chance's expansion to Chicago, then New York. They want to snuff me in dark, she said firmly, but this light will swallow them. The hall exploded applause. But in the crowd, cold eyes watched, silent. That night, homebound, Jordan asked if she feared. Monique paused. She gazed out window, Detroit lights twinkling, mirroring tiny flames in her eyes. She knew fear was part now, but no longer ruled her. She'd lost all once. Now, only one path. Forward. Monique had become a national icon. But could she keep Second Chances alight without Mafia shadows devouring it? Or would the sequel demand a debt even Detroit's queen couldn't refuse? Atlanta's night closed, but its echo rang across America. The woman once deemed invisible, called infertile, erased from her own home, now exited the Ritz-Carlton a queen. Not on empty promises from others, but her own reclaimed strength. Monique's tale isn't just sweet revenge on Marcus. It's living proof of truth. Dignity can't be stolen. It may be buried, obscured, but with enough courage, it reignites brighter than before. Second Chances is no mere community org. It's symbol of the Forsaken's yearning. Each resume, interview, reclaimed confident gaze proof light can kindle even in darkest cities. But every light trails shadow. Monique is now community leader. She's also a Mafia legend's daughter, heir to a potent legacy. And the unanswered question, can she keep hope's flame eternal, unswallowed by that blood's darkness? Part 1 of this journey ends on high note. But the next chapter will rage fiercer. New foes, trials, decisions that could shake her built empire. Want part 2? Drop your thoughts. And don't forget subscribe, love, knowing where and when you watch this. Now, I ask you, my audience, which Monique moment touched you deepest? Her Mafia convoy emergence in red gown? Exposing Marcus at the wedding? Or declaring Second Chance's expansion despite threats? Share this video with US, friends and family needing a guiding torch. Who knows, Monique's story might spark light for someone lost in dark. If you crave part 2 where Monique faces bigger, love, power, Mafia shadows awaiting, let me know in comments. Because, dear audience, this story has only just begun.